Welcome back. Welcome back. You tune into Inspired Afternoons, and this is our educational insights segment. And now we're speaking to integrated learning therapist, a practitioner, consultant, the different titles you can call her. But we're talking to Sister Zeenat Sirkhot, and she is a practitioner of integrated learning therapy, one of the forms of therapy that help well both young and old in terms of barriers to learning and how to overcome that so that you can reach your full learning potential as well. And Sister Zeenat has now furthered her studies in terms of the importance of diet and nutrition plays when it comes to actually barriers to learning and overall health. And I know Sister Zenat is always the one that advocates it's all in the gut. So everything emanates from your gut. So you need to have good gut health because all ailments emanate from this. I mean, let's welcome Sister Zenat. It's been a while. I think we spoke to early 2020 and the world was a
That's been a
very, very
long time, eh?
different time. Assalamu alaikum, Zinat, and welcome to Educational Insights.
Oh, alaikum salam. Can you hear me well?
Loud and clear.
Okay, shukar. First of all, I'm so happy to be speaking to you, and I listened to your program a bit earlier. I'm so happy, alhamdulillah, that you are doing much, much better and still inspiring people in such a great way, alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah. But as you can feel, the energy level is a bit 10 notches down. So, inshallah, next week, I hope to feel my energized self. It's somewhere I can feel it deep in my gut. It is there,
No,
and
definitely.
inshallah, it's going to come through in the coming weeks. But today, I made up my mind. To say, some people say, no, take it easy, rest. But I said, you know what? I need to plunge in now and I need to start because my body needs to get used to that. You know what? It needs to be back and even better and more energized, alhamdulillah. So, Zinat,
Alhamdulillah.
for those that have not listened to your previous sessions with us here on Educational Insights, briefly before we go on, can you please discuss with us what does integrated learning therapy entail? Because it sounds like a mouthful, and
It is a
some
mouthful,
higher
eh?
audience. So
Yes,
yes.
definitely.
So please tell us a little bit about the basic tenets of integrated learning therapy.
Right. So basically, integrated learning therapy, first of all, deals with children and adults with any sorts of learning barriers, physically or even if it's socially, mentally, right? And what we basically do is we go back to track the development of this person to see at what point did maybe something go a little bit off or how we can actually complete that development for them. So basically, integrated learning therapy also deals with the brain, right? And we're very, very much focused on the brain and reflexes, which inshallah, I hope I will have future programs with you to explain in depth what it is all about.
Absolutely.
Okay. But with integrated learning therapy, so basically we just assess the child to see what is actually going on, what's created that little learning barrier, whether it's concentration deficits or whether it's focusing problems, whatever the case is. And then we develop a program for them, which is basically a movement and a nutrition program, which, alhamdulillah, inshallah, with them being consistent, should assist in this child being able to focus a little bit better, concentrate a little bit better, or attend to whatever physical needs that they might have.
Okay, so I know, there's various phases of this. We had the analogy, I mean, integrated learning therapy. It was the house, right?
Yes, it was the house.
If I can,
So
yes,
basically,
yes. So what are
I'm
we
also
gonna
glad
do
you
is,
actually remember the house. So the
yes,
house,
and
basically, what
especially
we're saying,
I'm not on my sharpers, but I remember, I remember the house and what it entails. But what we're gonna do is, inshallah, I would like to revisit the
please,
analogy of the house in terms of that. But for today, what I'd like to do, and also I'd like to get you on a special program in terms of discussing gut health, and it's back to school and back to physically attending school, inshallah. We hope for a sustained period this year, so very, very
inshallah.
important. Next week, I'd like you to do for us is a special program just on lunchbox ideas that is actually going to uh, benefit overall gut functioning as well, so that children can effectively focus. They are
Inshallah.
energized in that, in terms of that, because we are what we eat. So um, but also, if you can give us ideas, because I was just thinking, it's so difficult being a parent. It's not like, you willfully go out there and give your child food that is going to cause them to be sluggish, have focusing problems. You do the best, and also out of love for your children, you want to give them food that is palatable, that is exciting, because once then you start giving them food that they haven't yet acquired a taste on for the palate, I mean, they don't want to eat it. They don't even look forward to going to school. For me, break time was fun time, and one of my highlights of my day was break time and what I got for packed lunch. So at the same time, it needs to be delicious, it needs to be palatable, and it needs we must look forward to it, and also easy for parents in our busy lifestyle. So you've got homework for us for next week. I'd like you to
Definitely.
get
No,
on it, and
inshallah, we
I want
definitely will look at
concrete
that.
ideas. So I want not just talking about vague stuff, but I want to say in a lunchbox, this is going to be there. And also, it must have the element of looking forward to opening the lunch tin. So you've got homework for us for
No,
next week,
inshallah.
inshallah. So I am on air. So whoever's listening, I'm sure, please make a note of it. Diarize this. That Sister Zeenat is going to be talking about healthy lunchtime options for those lunch boxes, and also maybe a different breakfast idea for the morning. But so, and that's when we're going to answer the question, what does the brain require to focus effectively? Because they all link. But just tell us quickly to round off, is there a difference in children now in 2021 compared to previously?
Well, definitely. I'm going to go back about 30 to 40 years back, right?
Mhm.
So, our generation of people. Yes, we did go to school for very, very long periods of time. We went to madrasa for very long periods of time. The difference is that we climbed, we played keniki, we played cricket, we played tennis, we climbed trees. A lot of our time in holidays, if I can remember, was doing activities. Whereas the child of 2021 is basically mostly, now I'm just giving you a model, right? They mostly sitting on their iPads. They're busy playing their games. They got their Wii systems, so it's basically a very sedentary life. And right now, with it being the COVID pandemic, one of the most scariest things for me is a lack of movement for children, because they're having to have this whole online, online forum for learning, whether it's madrasa or school. There isn't that human interaction for them, or that ability or time to actually have a bit of physical activities. And in terms
Um,
of movement, yes, okay.
Go
So
ahead,
where
go
this
ahead.
links in is that in order for the brain to focus really well, it needs good nutrition, right? Number one, good gut health, and it needs movement. Right. So our brain is made out of many cells. And inshallah, I'm hoping in the future we can have the whole talk on reflexes. So I can explain to parents how, these are the building blocks of the foundation of the brain. Without movement, basically, it affects all sorts of activity, electrical activity in the body, right? Whether it's physical, it affects the focus, it affects concentration. And then what about the bigger parts of that physical activity also influences the brain and emotions, because you need the good endorphins that come off this to be able to be focused in an emotional way. Right. So right now, with kids being in this way, it's very, very scary. And for me, Miriam, I'm looking at your teenies. Okay, so your tiny, your foundation phase kids. Those children need to learn, and yourself, through different mediums. So whether it is a lot of kids are visual learners, so they're great with seeing very spectacular colors and that kind of thing. But then you get that child who basically wants to learn in a very practical environment. They need to touch, they need to feel certain things to be able to learn. So what happens to those learners? Right. So with this COVID pandemic happening right now, it is very scary. And I mean, I did listen to your interview a bit earlier with the education department and stuff. And yes, it's great that we have a different forum to be able to have learning. But then we need to look at how are we going to manage the situation in terms of physical activity and things like that with children.
Yes, I think that's one of the areas that lacked in terms of all extra physical, extramural sporting activities being cut or limited, and that there's besides it's now upon the parents to do activities. But you know what? One-on-one things are just not that fun, especially many activities, sporting activities at school had that social, physical, social element, and that's been taken away. So that motivation and desire has not been there to be as physically active as before. And I guess like we've pivoted in many ways and adapted in many ways, and we now need to adapt in terms of our physical development, our motor development, our coordination, and in that domain.
So some of the things that, mom and dad can consider, first of all, integrated learning therapy is very driven by the parent. And yes, it is a one-on-one kind of intervention that works. But I mean, you're looking at about 10 minutes a day. The other thing that parents can do is you need to look at movement in different aspects. So there is the small movement, which influences your fine motor skill. There's big movements, your jumping, skipping, hopping, which helps your gross motor development and helps your brain, right? Then there's movement to assist in reflex development. And then also with regards to the emotional part of it. So, I mean, you can just go about giving them chores around the house. So, example, get your child to wash the car or wash a window using one ray and one hand. In that way, you're actually developing the midline crossing, which is very important for development or communication between right brain and left brain. Right? Get them to cut and chop up little things. I know, as I don't have any kids, but I have nieces, and I think we tend to be very impatient in the kitchen. So when something needs to be done or cooked, it needs to be done. But get them involved, get them before time, give them some chores. Okay, you need to cut up some carrots, some onions, some potatoes. So that's good for their fine motor because they're actually chopping and cutting up things. Playing with blocks. So there's a lot of things that can actually be done around the house. And you wouldn't need such a huge space or an environment, for this child to be able to cover all of those type of movements.
So, Sister Zeenat, what also I'd like to find out for you. So, integrated learning therapy is not just when somebody manifests with a barrier to learning, but you can use it as giving your child an edge and extra enrichment in terms of to ensure that they reach the optimal level of functioning in terms of all holistic development.
Yes, I would say so as well. I've had a lot of children come and I would sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a gifted child. What are you doing over here? But once we do the assessment, there are certain areas of development that haven't got, that the child hasn't completed. And alhamdulillah, these kids have just gone on and become more phenomenal. But also, I think the most important thing to bear in mind is that every child is an individual. Okay, all of our kids are not meant to be, doctors and lawyers and that kind of thing. Some kids are just very, very good with their hands. So they're going to be good plumbers or mechanical engineers or whatever the case is. And alhamdulillah, in that way, integrated learning therapy can assist to improve or even enrich their lives.
Absolutely. So, Sister Zinat, we're going to have you on as a regular segment in terms of movement and guiding parents in terms of holistic progression in a child's development. You using integrated learning therapy as a basis, but also in terms of healthy eating and gut health in that way there. So next week, inshallah, you've got
Inshallah.
homework now. Yes, we want interesting, healthy gut options to have optimal focus and optimal energy in our little ones. So we're going to be speaking to you next week, inshallah, with
Inshallah.
lunchbox ideas. Tasty, healthy lunchbox ideas, and as we go along, inshallah, we want to learn more about the movement and skills and that,
Please.
which parents can do, like you say, just 10 minutes a day will make a world of difference in terms of a child's development. It's been an absolute pleasure connecting, reconnecting
Alhamdulillah.
with
I'm so
you.
sorry. The time's always so short for us. So hopefully we can cover more ground next time, inshallah.
Inshallah, we'll do. And inshallah, by then, hopefully, I'm a lot more energized to push you a lot more. It was a rather subdued Maryam Mia today on Inspired Afternoons, but it's a
No,
start,
you did well.
Jazakallah.
You did really well.
I don't, I feel now, I feel really, really exhausted. I feel now it's time for me to have a mini nap. I did push myself certainly mentally. I challenged
Alhamdulillah.
myself physically. I am really, really feeling tired now, but I enjoyed it. It was just good to be back into routine and connecting with all my guests and all my listeners. And inshallah, until tomorrow in Inspired Afternoons, and as a Zina to you until next week, may you be under the mercy and protection of the
Ameen.
Almighty.
For yourself as well, go and take that nap. And I hope, inshallah, you get more refreshed and more energized and strong each and every day as it comes. We need lots of inspiration. Jazakallah.
Summa Ameen. Summa Ameen. And yes, Alhamdulillah, I feel like a mini victory. I made it through an entire show, an entire 2 hours, Alhamdulillah.
That's a
And
long
even,
time.
yeah, so Alhamdulillah, I made it through. I know I wasn't as my energized, jovial self, but I am getting there. It was
Alhamdulillah.
challenging. But Alhamdulillah, I had a great team and a support behind me today to push myself. The decision was entirely mine, but I'm happy I did it. I am going to go now and have a bit of rest. And until tomorrow, uh, peace and blessings to all our listeners. Stay safe and keep and always stay smiling. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.